Self-esteem is very important to our physical and mental well-being, but how valid are self-esteem questionnaires? In this project, we are going to test convergent, criterion, and divergent validity of a self-esteem target questionnaire. Our presentation is divided into 5 parts: the study goal and objectives, literature review, selected measurement scales including convergent, criterion, and divergent validity, data analysis, discussion and conclusion, and finally limitations and future research direction. According to the psychologist William James, self-esteem is an important construct of the self. It is a widely studied concept in psychology. Self-esteem has a relationship with the concept of self-worth and identity construction. Also, it is vital to our physical and mental well-being. In addition, self-esteem can influence our motivation and overall quality of life. Research showed that higher self-esteem possess more positive personality characteristics. The study goals and objectives of the project is to evaluate reliability, convergent validity, criterion validity, and divergent validity of target questionnaires, and to report relevant research findings with proper discussion and explain study limitation and highlight future study directions. Here are some relevant literatures about self-esteem. Self-esteem is the estimate one passes on himself or herself by way of a value judgment. It is the overall evaluation of one's worth as a person based on all the positive and negative self-perceptions. It is also a multidimensional construct constituted by interaction of environmental variables, cognitive, biological, emotional, social, and behavioral, and the person's perception. We define self-esteem as an overall evaluation of one's worth as a person based on environmental variables and positive and negative self-perceptions. There are different perspectives or focuses on the concept of self-esteem. Global self-esteem denotes a global value judgment about the self, whereas domain-specific self-esteem involves appraisals of one's value in a particular area. Self-esteem refers to how we feel about ourselves, while Brown argues self-esteem is inherently rooted in an affective process. Trait self-esteem is a person's long-term affectively laden self-evaluation, while state self-esteem refers to the self-evaluation in a particular situation. Here in our study, the focus is on global self-esteem and trait self-esteem. Below shows the summary of the scales we selected. For the target test, we chose an online self-esteem survey from a Canadian organization that provides professional support on mental health problems such as stress, depression, and anxiety disorder. Low self-esteem is proved to be a factor leading to depression and anxiety. Therefore, the team of the organization established this self-esteem survey for their clients. As the team was formed by different professionals in the field of physical health and mental health, the survey is assumed to be with good reliability and validity, which will be further tested in this study. The online self-esteem survey is a 10-item self-report measurement with 5-point responding format. For the convergent validity testing, we chose the Rosenberg self-esteem scales as our valid test. This is a classic scale highly connected with the Coppersmith self-esteem inventory, which is widely used in the field of psychology worldwide for self-esteem assessment. The scale contains 10 items that are divided into 2 facets: self-competence and self-liking. Rosenberg's self-esteem scales show good reliability in both test-retest and internal consistency, which alpha coefficient range over 0.7. The minimum coefficient of reproducibility is 0.9, which has really strong patterns. Therefore, we are going to compare the online self-esteem survey with the Rosenberg self-esteem scales. If 2 scales are correlated, the survey should be convergently valid. We did literature review and found lots of research has proved the correlation between self-esteem and happiness. Studies have shown that self-esteem and happiness are substantially interrelated. To further validate our target test, we ran a criterion validity test with happiness as the criterion. A validated happiness scale was chosen for the correlation test. If the target test actually correlates with the valid test measuring happiness, the target test should also be valid. The subjective happiness scale is a 4-item self-report measure developed to assess one's individual overall happiness. The response format is the 7-point Likert type scale. The subjective happiness scale has shown good reliability in both test-retest and internal consistency. The internal consistency estimates appear strong with the Kohlberg's alpha, ranging from 0.8 to 0.94 in the United States high school, adults, and retired populations. For divergent validity, we have chosen narcissism as the construct for testing. Narcissism is a personality trait characterized by strong positive self-concept, to a point of exaggeration, sense of superiority, feeling of uniqueness, and a desire for respect and admiration, selfishness and achievement orientation. Although narcissism is sometimes perceived as an exaggerated form of self-esteem, research has shown that it is actually a separated construct from self-esteem. Narcissism and self-esteem differ on their phenotype, their consequences, their development, and their origin. Moreover, the correlation between narcissism and self-esteem measured with MPI 37 and the Rosenberg self-esteem scales has been found to be quite low at R is equal to 0.26, which is only a small correlation according to the Cohen's conventions. All the factors discussed above means that narcissism is a good construct candidate for divergent validity. If our target test is a valid test for self-esteem, it should be lowly correlated with NPI 8, just as self-esteem is found to be low correlated with narcissism in previous literature. For this study, we have employed NPI 8 for divergent construct validation, which is a validated shortened version of the NPI 16. The NPI 8 is supported by literature to be a reliable and valid measure for narcissism. Below we'll show our findings on the reliability and validity tests compared with the target test and other tests selected. Let's look at the sample profile. We have a sample size of 77. Almost 70% of the subjects are female. For the age level, subjects are mostly from the age group 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 to 59. Only 4% of them is 60 or above. For the education level, bachelor and master degree holders are dominating. Only 3% of the subjects are doctoral degree holders. For the reliability, we measure the Kohlberg's alpha for the 4 selected scales. The target test has a good reliability with an alpha equal to 0.857, larger than 0.7. The alpha of other scales also reach over 0.7, except the narcissistic personality inventory. Its Kohlberg's alpha is 0.505, which is below the acceptable range. However, we will keep using the NPI results due to its proven validity in previous research and the high boundary of Kohlberg's alpha. Looking into the item of the target test, deleting any of the items still would generate Kohlberg's alpha over 0.8. The result shows that if we delete item 3 or item 7, the alpha will reach 0.861. However, as the scale is already in good reliability, we are not removing any item. Let's take a look at the convergent validity. To test the convergent validity, we analyze the correlation between the target test and the valid test measuring self-esteem, which is the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. We tested the correlation between the mean of the two tests. The result shows a significantly positive correlation with R is equal to 0.818. The target test is proved to have a good convergent validity. To test the criterion validity, we analyze the correlation between the target test of self-esteem and the valid test of happiness. As we said earlier, self-esteem has been proved to be correlated with happiness. The criterion validity can be proved if the target test of self-esteem correlates with the criterion test of happiness. The Pearson correlation is 0.696. The result shows a significantly positive correlation between the target test, self-esteem, and the valid test about happiness indicating the target test has a good criterion validity. Now let's take a look at the result for divergent validity. Our analysis showed that our target test is lowly correlated with MPI 8 at R is equal to 0.25, significant at the 0.05 level. According to Cohen's conventions, this is only a small correlation. In addition, our finding actually matches the findings of the literature, where correlation between self-esteem and narcissism was found to be 0.26. Thus, the result of our divergent analysis has provided further support that the target test is a valid test for the measure of self-esteem. All in all, our target self-esteem successfully measures our target construct, self-esteem, which we defined as an overall evaluation of one's worth as a person based on environmental variables and positive and negative self-perceptions. With a Quant-Best alpha larger than 0.7, the test has high cross-item reliability. It is predictable and precise. The observed score on items are highly correlated. The test also has high convergent validity, criterion validity, and divergent validity. It is highly correlated with an established scale measuring self-esteem and with a valid scale measuring happiness, which is proven to be correlated with self-esteem. It is lowly correlated with theoretically irrelevant variables, narcissism. Therefore, we can say that it is precise and accurate. It consistently and accurately measures self-esteem. For potential improvement, when we take a closer look at the correlation matrix of the target test and the Rosenberg self-esteem scale, item 3 and 7 in the target test is lowly correlated with the item in Rosenberg self-esteem scale. Those two items are also lowly correlated with the items in the subjective happiness scale. Recalling the reliability and validity analysis, when we remove item 3 or item 7, the Quant-Best alpha would be increased. Therefore, we propose that item 3 and 7 would be potential bad items. However, further tests, such as the confirmatory factor analysis, would be needed to confirm this conclusion. In terms of sample size, we can expand it to at least 100 subjects or above to achieve a better coverage of various demographic populations. We can consider the cross-cultural differences context in Hong Kong, as this is a multicultural city with individualistic and collectivistic culture. The target test can be tested in different cultural backgrounds in the future. Only one test is used for each type of validity test. We should conduct repeat testing or use different scales to test the validity in the long run. For this study, we are using a self-report method for data gathering. It can be subjective along with bias and social desirable behaviors. For divergent validity, the scale we use has generated a 0.545 Quant-Best alpha in a reliability test, which means it is not very reliable. It can be replaced by MPI 16, which includes 16 items or other inventory, measuring narcissism. That's all for our presentation. Thank you.